with Nigel. As usual, it's me, Nigel, and my co-host Nick Parker. And today we got a very what's up, Nick? We've got a very special guest, my homeboy, Jeremy Danner of Hands Brewing. Welcome, Jeremy.
Thank you. How's it going?
It's going well. Before we get started, obviously Nick screwed up and doesn't have the beer, so we're gonna get into the mystery beer immediately. That way I'm
digging right in.
Be drinking with us. So let's see what the first mystery beer is. Show Jeremy the bag. Hold it up.
The bag.
So
nice.
this was stolen, I believe, from the old Independence Cracker Neck course in 1987.
Only made when woods were actually made of wood. Is that what that is there?
We don't really know, but I'm sticking with that story. What do we got in here, Nigel?
I brought you some special beers, man.
Ooh.
I warned him. I was like, well, you got 16 ounces. Sorry.
Ooh. I have not had this. Which one is this?
That's some Grains and Taps.
This is the Grains. Okay, I've had theirs.
Well, I didn't know that.
This is no. Well, look. Do you think I mind? Do you think I mind doubling up?
Well, that'll be your sipping beer, and the next two I'm sure you have not had. So anyway, so you needed a beer to drink. So Jeremy, tell the people what you're drinking, man.
I'm drinking Incarnation from Four Hands because I'm a homer. It's our Mosaic hopped IPA. It's around 7%, and then a little bit of Columbus for bittering, but then all the late and dry hopping is done with Mosaic, so it's more tropical fruit, pineapple, mango than it is grassy green resinous hop character.
Nice. Kids, I'm drinking Anthem Brewing's, what is it called? Always in Session IPA. Shout out to Kenny from Oklahoma City who sent that to me. I love that brewery. It's a very, very good beer. Nice and tasty, nice and pretty. So
I'm gonna shout out to Grains here. All their stuff is so good, but this is one of my favorites.
And shout out to Junior because one of our favorite watchers of this is
Junior
every week. Junior, he wants to know the descriptions of all the beers because he wants to know what the hell people are drinking. So shout out to Junior. So Jeremy, man, we kind of go way back, but we're kind of like beer festival friends.
Right.
You know, let's start with you. How'd you get into craft beer? Where'd that start? Man,
it sounds ridiculous, but my 21st birthday, I went to a brew pub where a buddy of mine was the brewer. He told me, come down on your birthday, I'll buy you lunch and buy you some beers, we'll hang out. And as I was walking into the brewery, it was, do you remember Hops that used to be on, it's 39th Street in Independence? It was like a national brew pub chain that was based out of Florida. He was the brewer there. I don't think it even existed anymore, but as I was walking in, I saw him climb out of the kettle after, finishing a brewer and cleaning up. And that's when it hit me that people make beer. I knew he was a brewer. I knew that was his job, but it's like, until you go to a dairy farm, milk comes from the store. That's where I get milk, and beer comes from the liquor store. And you think about it coming from breweries, which are just these, monolithic, faceless factories. And you don't really think about the fact that, like, people do some pretty shitty work to make beer, so that blew my mind. He showed me around on what he was doing, and that really set me off. And I just started, I could try to get any books I could get my hands on to read about beer, drinking all the beer I could get. I worked at Fox and Hound for a little bit in Independence.
Oh, wow.
I was up in there. I was one of the opening servers there. Just sort of kind of fell headlong, going to 4 or 5 liquor stores on a beer run, that kind of stuff. And then I learned to brew at 75th Street Brewery in Waldo. So I got fired from a bar job I worked at Coach's down on 103rd, and it was still there.
Yeah.
And this is back in 05. So November 05, I started working at 75th Street Brewery as a server and a bartender. And in June, I moved into the brew house and became an assistant brewer. That's where I made that's my first batch of beer I ever made. I never home brewed. So the smallest batch I've ever made is 7 barrels, which is pretty crazy to think about. I did that for a little bit. I thought that I'd like to learn how to run a brew pub, maybe want to open one someday. So I went into management, which was a mistake. I'm not a manager. I'm not a good boss. I'm a worker bee. So I got out of that and bartended in another spot over in Shawnee Mission for a while I was working part-time on the smokestack bottling line at Boulevard. And that was in early 08 when I was doing that January. And then I got fired from that bar job on St. Patrick's Day. If you get fired from a bar on St. Patrick's Day, they are done with you. They don't need you at all. I called Stephen Powell, who's still the brewmaster at Boulevard. said, hey man, I lost my job today. I want to go full time at Boulevard. I'll do anything. I'll clean floors. Whatever you have, I'll do. So I came in and interviewed for a job on the regular bottling line. Accepted that. The next day, he called me and said, I know I just gave you this bottling line job, but I had a brewer give notice today, and I prefer to give you that job instead. Is that okay? And I blurted out, no shit. And he goes, no shit. I'll see you Monday, brewer. And that was how I got started at Boulevard. That was my first day on the brew house at Boulevard was March 31st of 2008.
Wow. So let's back up a little bit. So
sure.
Before let's go back to high school, maybe college. Do you remember what when your first beer, you're like, oh, I really like beer? Do you remember what that was, like craft beer?
I didn't think I liked beer in high school. Everybody tries their parents' beer or whatever, or their friends' beers, and a lot of people are drinking like Busch Light or Natty, and I just didn't think I liked beer. So in high school, I drank Everclear, which is a totally responsible thing to do.
We're going to spend about the next 30 minutes on that.
Yeah,
bro.
We'd buy a bottle of Sunny Delight and dump half of it out and top it up with Everclear, and that's what we drank. And once your mouth goes numb, you can drink anything. It doesn't matter.
Absolutely.
If you can't feel the burn, it doesn't matter, dude.
I feel like that's on a T-shirt somewhere.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. Like the first beer that I remember liking was probably. Boulevard Wheat was big for me. Boulevard Pale Ale. I drank a lot of Abita Purple Haze, that raspberry wheat.
Hell yeah.
I loved New Belgium had their Sunshine Wheat, which led to me really digging their old school beer de Mar. This was way back when it was in 12-ounce bottles. I don't know if I had Brett back then, but yeah, those were kind of the formative ones. And then like Newcastle and Guinness were some of my favorites too. Yeah.
So you just kind of, once you started getting the good beers, you're like, oh, I want to be in the industry, or you obviously you've come up.
Yeah, I knew that I wanted to work in beer. I thought that I wanted to be a brewer, but I wasn't sure. And back then there weren't as many breweries either. There wasn't the opportunity there. So like getting that first taste of experience was difficult. And that's kind of what you need to get over the hump to get you into a brewery. And in the back of my mind, I thought it'd be cool to work at Boulevard someday, but I felt like that's like saying it'd be cool to pitch for the Royals someday too. Like I missed out.
Exactly.
I missed a lot of the early stages to try to get there, but I'm still going to try to go to the big leagues. So yeah, I kind of got into brewing at 75th Street by just volunteering to do things they didn't want to do. And it just so happened that Bucky, who was the head brewer there, he left to go install cable for Time Warner. And that's when, like, do you want to brew or do you want to climb poles? Which is it, man? It's an easy choice for me. Yeah, he's now at Cinderblock, of course. But that's when I got my first experience in the brew house, is when Bucky left and I started helping Chris Morgan out. And Chris Morgan is now at Boulevard. He's been there a long time as well.
I feel like somehow I used to go to 75th back then because I lived in Westport. Somehow I probably ran into you or saw you or something and probably don't remember because I used to go there all the time. But, because that was it, as far as it wasn't called craft back then, but it was, it was a brewery. So, kind of crazy
back then.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I remember, I grew up in Eastern Jackson County too. And I remember that hops, and that was early college for me, I think. And that was one of the first of those that I remember popping up where I'm like, oh, this is a thing.
Yeah.
They have their own microbrews and restaurants, and
man, those honey rolls, those were so damn good, dude.
Yeah, those things were fire.
Man, they're so good.
That was weak, man.
Yeah, I wasn't. Yeah, that was the first one. It's fine. It's fine. So Jeremy, you go to Boulevard. That's like you said. You're going from really not even the minors. You just jump into the majors. What was that like?
I didn't know shit. It was frightening. I was confident that I'm a smart guy and I can learn things. And I think that's, looking back, probably hiring a guy who didn't have a ton of commercial brewing experience apart from 75th Street made a lot of sense because, you can't teach people how to be part of a team or how to be a hard worker, how to be cool, but you can teach people to do whatever they want. But I realized just how little I knew compared to what I knew or what I thought I knew at 75th Street. I kind of compare it to the difference between being like a cook and a chef. At 75th Street, I had a recipe and I had notes about the process and I knew what to do and when to do it, but I didn't really understand the why. And working closely with Stephen Powell's and Sterling Holman, who's now a brewer at Brewery Imperial, he trained me for my first 10 weeks, and he'd been there for 14 years when I started. which is
Wow.
insane. So
Yeah.
you just sort of realize I have so much to learn, and you build on that foundation. So learning that why to me is the difference between being a cook and a chef, and understanding how you can manipulate certain steps of certain processes or raw materials here, or temperatures there to manifest itself on the beers. That's really what I learned at Boulevard, is all of the why of that.
How long do you think it took before you felt like you understood it and you could do it rather than
Uh,
just follow the recipe and the instructions?
yeah, Boulevard, they want you to train about 10 weeks. It can be a longer time period if it needs to be. It can be a shorter time period. Everyone feels pretty good coming out of those 10 weeks because you have somebody kind of holding your hand the whole time or babysitting and watching you. It's when you go to the night shift for the first time that that's when you sort of sink or swim. And back in those days, you were the only person there. I believe they're, running filtration 24/5 right now as well. So you have people there with you. But I remember the first night, a guy named Caton was brewing on the noon to 8 shift. And I came in and he's like, "The plan is yours." I'm like, "Oh my God." And I look around this giant brewery, and I'm the only person in this brewery now. And once you come back from that night shift and you realize, everything that comes up, you have to deal with on your own or figure it out, or call a friend. And when I trained brewers later on, I always told them, call me at 3 a.m. I'd much rather get woken up at 3 a.m. than come in at 5 to a total cluster. Call me if you need
Yes.
help. But yeah, I
Yes, I'm
think
sorry.
that first shift coming back from nights to days, you feel a lot more confident about what's going on, but it's still a continuous learning, especially being around a guy like Stephen Powell's. He has a biochemical engineering degree focused on fermentation. That's some heavy stuff right there. So
Yeah. Yeah. That's
um,
serious.
if you're comfortable and confident, but I think you never lose the idea that you can learn something new every day, which sounds so cliche, but really, talking to those
It's
people and
true.
rolling through the lab and talking to the lab folks and the chemists, you really realize it's insane that the people who have educations like Stephen does, or what other brewmasters, when they go to these crazy schools and have these scientific backgrounds, it's wild that they've chosen to make beer with their brains instead of any number of things they could have done that some might argue are more culturally significant. But it's lucky for us that people like that decide they do want to use their brains to make beer.
I mean, you spent some. How long were you there?
I was there from March of '08 until June of 2019, so almost 12 years.
Holy shit, that's a long time.
Yeah.
And your roles kind of changed. So tell us about how obviously you were a brewer. When
Oh
I
yeah.
met you, you weren't.
Yep. Yeah. So I brewed from 2008 until 2013. At the beginning of 2013, I was given the opportunity to sort of create my own job on the marketing team. On paper, we called it craft marketing specialist, public facing. We later named that job ambassador brewer. Um, and it was sort of my job to bridge the gap between brewing and marketing, because they're very different departments. And then also to publicly represent the brewery at events and dinners and tastings, and that grew into managing social media, writing blog posts, writing packaging and label copy, and website copy by the time I was the end of my time at Boulevard. So I really had about 2.5, 3 jobs at Boulevard during that time.
Right.
How
I
was
feel
that?
like
That's a quite a transition though from the very very more science chef focused brewer to writing copy and to going out and talking to people at the tours and their events, and
Oh yeah,
that's not an easy transition.
no, it was weird. I mean, I think my personality and my skill set made it really possible for me. But you're right. Like it was tough to measure my contribution or my accomplishments each day. You finish a day on the brew house and you can point to a tank and say, "See that? I made 600 barrels of single white IPA today." But on the marketing team, I'm like, I did some stuff. I feel good about what I did, but I would
right.
still make very detailed to-do lists and kept very detailed notes about what I did, so that I could always kind of refer back to that. And when you have the chance to create your own job, there's a lot of scrutiny that comes with that. So I was always ready to be like, no, I'm working, I'm doing things. Here's what I'm currently working on. Here's a list of projects I can tell you about right now.
And that was all before the
Well, I mean,
sale too, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so the sale officially closed on January 1st, 2014. So I was in that role for about 8 months before I learned that the sale was happening, and then I was in that. I was at Boulevard for another 5.5 years after the sale happened.
just as long as I've known you, the it's two sides of the brain, that brewing part and that marketing, promotion, ambassador part. I mean, it's a testament to you to be able to do that, because a lot of the guys I know that work in breweries, they're not good at the public parts.
Sure. And they don't want to be, and they shouldn't. If they're not good at that,
right.
they shouldn't feel pressured to do that. I think Boulevard being the size of the brewery it was and the size of the brewing team, you could really pick people out that had these skills and allow them to shine doing that. And there were guys who did not want to do that ever, and that got them off the hook from like there'd be emails like, "Hey, we need a brewer for a liquor store tasting," and guys are like, "No, not me. That is not me." And I was always happy to go. So that's sort of how I became the go-to guy for things like that.
Was there a difference in your role? Did you notice a big difference after the sale?
No, not really. I mean, from the outside, people always want to say, like what's changing, what's happening, and really in my role at Boulevard after the sale, the only thing that changed was the color of the paper that my checks were printed on, and I don't know why, but really nothing changed.
I feel like the only thing was they just got bigger. Like business boomed.
Yeah, I mean, Duval had the assets to immediately invest like $15 million into a cellar expansion.
Yeah.
Another few million into a canning line. So yeah, I mean, it was all up and up from there. I was nervous though because on paper, my job that I had looked, like shit. Like I spent a lot of money. They paid me well. I traveled a lot, and I didn't really have any sales to show for it because I was a marketing guy. So it was tough for me to demonstrate, a direct return on investment. So when Michel Morgat came over for the first plant meeting where he was going to talk and say hey to Boulevard, Michel runs Duval. I got it in my head that I was going to go up to him and I was going to welcome him to Boulevard. I thought that would be really cool. Like, hey, welcome to the family. And I went up to introduce myself and I go, hey, he goes, you're Jeremy Danner, the movie star. And I was like, that's got to be a translation thing. I was like, no, I've seen your beer videos. They're good. And I remember like kind of walking a few steps further and being like, okay, cool, I'm good. Oh my God. I mean, if Duval were a, trim the fat, let's put everything to the bottom line that we can kind of company, I would have been out on day one, So I was very fortunate that they saw the value in my role and kept me around for quite some time following the acquisition.
Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of people when breweries get bought up, people are like, "Oh my God, the sky is falling." And I tell people all the time, I think that was a great thing for Boulevard when that happened because it was a company that did good beer, and they weren't going to change what you guys are doing. Am I right?
Yeah, I mean the brewery wasn't broken, and I think that's people think of like in the corporate world they think of takeovers and buyouts and like these very hostile meetings where you're selling the company and that's how it goes. And that wasn't what John wanted to do at all. He wanted to take a step back from running the day to day and liquidate some assets as well and enjoy himself. And he dedicated 25 years of his life to this company, and it was time for him to kind of take a step back. But no, Boulevard was very much not broken. It didn't need fixing necessarily, but the idea was to sort of supplant or secure the legacy of Boulevard in Kansas City for generations to come. And Duval made an excellent choice and a partner of that. But every time I go out for an event, especially like right after the sale, like, is it crazy? Do you have to learn Belgian? And I'm like, first off, Belgian isn't a language, right? Like that's not a thing. Yeah, I'm like, they either speak Flemish or French, and most of them speak several languages. You never feel more like a simple American when you're in a room with a guy who can speak 6 languages and change in the conversation who he's talking to. I speak Pig Latin, and that's it. But the people would ask, they were rightly concerned. I mean, that's whenever anything changes or they think there's a possibility of change, especially something comforting like beer, it's natural to want to know what's different. But people would ask me. I'd go to a beer dinner and say, like, what's changed? Like, well, let me ask you, from your perception outside, what have you seen that's changed? And they go, nothing. And for me, it was like, if you as a consumer are unable to perceive any sort of change, that to me communicates that, Boulevard's doing a job of keeping their culture and their standards and all of those things. If your house is on fire, your house is on fire, and I can see it on fire too. We don't have to ask. I can say, bro, your house is on fire. I'm not going to say, is your house on fire, Nigel?
Right. Do you think that like the tasting room, the beer hall was that a result of the sale? Was that enabled Boulevard to do that, or was that something that was already planned?
It was something that was in the works for a long time, but just never manifested itself. I think if you look at all the breweries around the mid. Well, I mean, if you go anywhere in the country, you go to New Belgium, or you go to New Glarus, they have these big, beautiful, tasting rooms and gift shops that are expansive and great and fun to hang out at. And people who travel, across the country to visit your brewery, they deserve to land in a spot like that. So it was something
Right.
that they wanted to happen for a while. And I honestly, I wasn't involved in the conversations about, what made it finally happen. But I just knew that it was something that made sense. Once it opens, you're like, of course, there's this big beer hall and, tasting room and gift shop all in one building. It makes perfect sense because Boulevard is a destination brewery in Kansas City in the same way that, New Glarus is that way in New Glarus and New Belgium and Odell and Fort Collins. They have these places you get there and you're like, I'm somewhere cool now.
Right. Right. Kind of looking back to your career there, what are you proud of?
Oh man. I'm really proud of Tank 7. That was a beer that I was involved with from the beginning.
Yeah.
Remember, I was brewing a batch of Saison Brett that was to be the first batch of Saison Brett that was commercially released. And Stephen Powell's walked up to me on the old Brewhouse 1, the 35 barrel system. And that's the brewhouse you learn after you're comfortable on the big brewhouse. And he asked me, he goes, "Do you know what you're doing?" I said, "Yeah, I think so. I feel good." And he goes, "Okay, good, because we're going to sell this beer for like $15 a bottle. So don't fuck it up." And he just, yeah. And he walked away. He didn't smile. He just walked away. And I'm like, oh my God. Like now I'm freaking out. And he came back a few minutes later and he's like, "I'm really sorry. I'm just messing with you. I know that we don't know each other that well and that wasn't right." I'm like, "Okay, we're cool." But that beer was brewed into fermenter number 7 or Tank 7. And we sort of fell in love with the beer, as it was waiting to be transferred down the street to become Saison Brett. We take like a little sample glass or a pint glass, and then soon it was 1,000 milliliter graduated cylinders and pitchers to this, and take them out to the patio. People would ask, "What are you guys drinking?" "Oh, it's Tank 7." And that's whatever's in Tank 7. So we took that to KC Beer Fest in October of, would that have been like late '08, I believe, in the Power and Light District. And we poured that beer, we kegged some by hand, and someone asked us, what's this dry hop saison? What are you calling it? I'm like, "Oh shit, we don't have a name for it." So we said it's Tank 7. And that sort of became the operating name for the beer around the brewery. When it came time to discuss releasing it, it was given the branding treatment and naming and all that. And the name that it was going to be was the Poet of the Plains. And I threw a fit, man. I freaked out. I'm like, this beer has a name. This name is Tank 7. This is something the brewers discovered. We feel very strongly about it. So we called a meeting with with marketing, and I think the CFO was in that conversation, and lab folks and brewers, and we really pled our case to keep the beer called Tank 7, and we won. So I mean, I feel, looking at the legacy of that beer and what it's become for Boulevard, and it's sort of what Boulevard is known for outside of Kansas City. I'm immensely proud of that experience, and just all the opportunities I was given while I was at Boulevard um, translate to me getting to do cool stuff now. It's funny,
Yeah.
when people found out I wasn't there, they really wanted me to go off, and I'm like, I don't have anything to go off about. Like I had an awesome 11 years. I traveled the country. I went everywhere. I drank and ate awesomely. Met a lot of really cool people. Got to do a lot of great work on behalf of the brewery. So yeah, looking back, when none of us had any idea what that beer was going to be. It's this dry hop
Right.
saison that's 8.5% ABV. Who wants that? We thought it was this really dorky beer, but when people started
Me.
coming up to us,
Me.
yeah, like I was in a bar one night and this really old lady walks up and she goes, "I need to tell you, sir, that Tank 7 kicks ass." I'm like, "Oh my God, I hadn't even thought about you being the target of this beer."
Right.
So
That's
it
awesome
is,
to hear that story. I don't know that I've
yeah,
ever heard anybody tell the story really of where it came from, but what a thing too. You should be proud because, like you said, it's a thing Boulevard's known for outside of Kansas City. But
yeah,
how many people, like, that's the debate in Kansas City too, right? Like, is Take 7 your favorite?
right.
I mean, that's the conversation at every beer snob driveway drink there is.
It's still one of my favorite beers. One of my favorite stories about Tank 7. I was in Park City, Utah, land of 5.3 beers, and I was doing a shoot, and I had a bunch of friends from LA, and we were at this bar, and they had Tank 7 in the cooler, and we bought all of it. I was like, fuck yeah.
Nice, yeah.
Utah, you can't get beer above 5.5%. So it was. They're like, what is this beer? I'm like, some Kansas City bitches. What? This is what Kansas City's about. Still one of my favorite beers. I remember when it first came out. It was in the Bomber.
Right. Yeah. Just
oh my god. Yeah. Oh my god. That was always a good night. It was always a good night. That's crazy. Hey, Nick, are you done with that beer yet? It's probably time for the next mystery.
Do I need to?
You're probably not. Well, yeah. I mean, that's part of the stick. You know what I'm saying?
It's not beer with Nigel. It's beers with Nigel, right?
Right. Multiple.
Yeah, it's plural.
Okay.
Plural.
What do we got here?
He was a little concerned when I came to his house and dropped off beer, so we'll see what happens.
Well, there's been a lot of posting lately on the socials about the pickle beers, and that frightens me a little bit.
Jeremy, he doesn't like pickles in his beer.
Food of the devil.
Well, I mean, if you don't like pickles, pickle beer is probably not your thing.
No. We got an Alma Mader here.
Oh, nice.
Pillar, German-style Pilsner.
Or is it Pilar? I don't know what it was called.
I'm going to say Pillar.
I don't know.
I done went to college. I'm going to go Pillar. Nice.
Whose voice did I hear? Was that the small roommate?
He's back there. Yeah.
How's he doing?
He's good.
How's he doing?
He broke his arm on Monday, man. He's having a rough
day.
Yeah, he's got the full arm cast all the way up to the shoulder, like rookie of the year or whatever. And some funky butt loving. He's a madman, and he went to jump off a piece of playground equipment, and the last thing I said to him before he did it was, "Be careful, bro." And here we are.
Words to live by.
Hey, Nigel, what's rule number one?
Rule number one is don't die. So he didn't violate that.
He didn't die, right? Yeah. That was always my rule. Yeah, when I played like beer league softball, rule number one, don't get hurt. Rule number two, have fun. Rule number three, drink beer. And then try to win was like rule number 17,
Yeah. Our rules are rule number one, don't die. Rule number two, and you'll appreciate this one, it's pretty simple. Don't be a dick.
Yeah.
Really, what do you got there, Nick?
Well, that's the Pillar. That's good.
Oh, what do you that's your estimation of it. It's good.
Yeah. It's good.
But speaking of
I want more. How's that? It's good, and I want more.
Jeremy, let's talk about
that's a very easy drinking after the black.
Yeah, it's a good beer. Very good beer. So Jeremy, you've kind of grown up in the Kansas City beer scene. I mean, you've seen, you were with the OG, and you've kind of seen all the things that have happened in the last 5 to 7 years. What's your impression of what's happened here? It's kind of crazy.
It is crazy, yeah. I mean, for the longest time, the only packaged beer that you could get in Kansas City was Boulevard. 75th Street years ago did some runs with like Pony Express. Do you remember those guys? They were based out in Olathe. Their brewery, I think their brewery flooded is ultimately what caused them to close. But yeah, there just wasn't any packaged beer. And I remember, like, I'd travel, for vacation, travel for work, and go somewhere like Portland or Fort Collins even, and there's like 15 breweries everywhere. And you're like, dude, when is this going to happen in Kansas City? What's going on?
Right.
And a lot of us, me especially, I was just like begging for the opportunity to root for and support new breweries in Kansas City. And I just really wanted people to open, something big. And there were a few projects that happened, like Doodle Brewing opened for a little bit. That's Nick, who's the head brewer down at Martin City now. And that didn't last very long. And there were a couple other, small, like half barrel to 1.5, 2 barrel breweries. But nobody was really, and not to say that they weren't committing by doing that, because I know that starting any business is insane. It's obviously I'm chicken shit, otherwise I would have done it, So no disrespect meant to those guys.
Or smart.
Or smart, yeah. Or maybe I have so little money that I know that I can't ever gather the money required to open a brewery, so I just didn't try, But when like Crane and Martin City and Casey Beer Co. all opened kind of right around the same time, I think Crane might have come a little bit after those guys, but Martin City opened one night, and then I think Casey Beer Co. opened the next night. It was like 2 nights in a row those guys opened. And then, fast forward, 10 years down the road, and we have 30-ish breweries in Kansas City. It's exciting, man. And for the most part, everyone's making really good beer too. There are some that started out kind of rough, but they figured it out. They found their way.
Right.
Um, I think in doing so, a brewery like Crane or a brewery like Casey Beer Co., I think they're really smart in what they decided to do. They said, this is what we enjoy brewing. This is what we're good at brewing. This is what we're going to make, and carved out a niche. Versus like sometimes a brewery opens up like, oh, what kind of beers are you going to make? All kinds of beer. Like, well,
all the beers.
Pick one. Like, tell me what you're excited to make, and tell me what's sort of your goal with opening that brewery. And I think those guys were very smart in doing that. And then seeing more brew pubs open up. I remember when City Barrel opened, I was reading in Beer Tasting KC, people were so confused by it. They're like, well, there's tables and people are eating, and I don't know what to do. And it's like, how did you forget about brew pubs? They've forgotten because people have just been going to tasting rooms where there's no food. And like, well, can I sit at the table and just drink? Yes, you can just sit at the table. They were so blown away by the restaurant aspect of it that they're really confused by it. But yeah, what I dig now is all the collaboration and sort of cross-pollination that occurs with breweries. Either it's employees going from one brewery to another and learning something new, or like what Sterling did, going from Boulevard to Imperial. I mean, that's a dream thing to do, is to work at a brewery where you know so much and have access to really cool equipment, and see like you have access to the best technology to make the best beer possible, and then applying that to a smaller brewery where you can do whatever you want to as well. That's
right.
The dream. I never thought I'd want to go back to work for a smaller brewery until I got a few more years into Boulevard and really saw what happened on the marketing side, on the sales side, and innovation. I wasn't just making wort in a brew house any longer. I was sort of seeing things go from conception to release and all the steps along the way. And that's really exciting when you figure all that out and have the opportunity to impact change and move a smaller brewery forward. But to answer the question, sorry, I like to ramble.
You're good.
Yeah, I think what's happening right now is people are they're in it, and beer it's reached the mainstream. And there are still guys who will never ever try craft beer. People like to say that guys like you and I and Nick, that we're beer snobs because we drink all this weird beer or whatever. But it's the guy who drinks Bud Light all day, every day, who won't even try a can of Full Life if I hand it to him. Those guys are the beer snobs. So
that's fair.
It's very strange. And I'm not saying we should give up and stop trying to reach them.
They're the same guys who still buy the all-white Reeboks every 2 years at the shoe store.
That's my shoe, man. That's my shoe.
I'm a size 10.5 A.
If they get rid of that shoe, I'm going to cut my feet off because I'm never going to wear shoes again, man. But yeah, no, they're opening real breweries with ambitions, and they want to distribute beer, and they want to see their beer on tap around town. And at the same time, Alma Mader wants to do what they want to do. And obviously, COVID has changed everybody's business model, but those guys are thriving in doing what they want to do, and they sell all the beer from there, and they control all the beer and the quality chain, and they keep all the money. And that's beautiful, man.
You're still on that marketing side now, right?
I mean, kind of. I do the Twitter for Four Hands, which is always funny when people tag Four Hands thinking they're going to get me in trouble. Like, oh, does Four Hands know? I'm like, yeah, bro, that's me too. Yeah, I do know. But yeah, so I'm doing some social media for the brewery. I'm writing sell sheets. I'm doing some website copy. And then, as a sales rep, yeah, that job is marketing as well, in the way that you conduct yourself and present yourself and host events, and the way you organize those and promote. I mean, it's very much, many hats in this one role. Which
you miss the brewery?
I do. I miss being able to go to the physical brewery every day. And that's weird. I'm 4 hours away from Four Hands. So I see all these cool things happening, and I'm like, I would like that beer. I would like to go to this event. I want to hang out, and if people like, oh, Dana, this beer is so great. I'm like, yeah, I'm never going to have it. I will never get to have that beer. So I'm glad you're having it.
They
won't let you have it? What the hell?
Well, no, I mean, the things
you don't have a COVID courier?
Yeah, they're like, Kansas City, pish posh. The things that happen out there are cool, but I still talk to Kevin Limp, our founder and president, a lot. That makes me feel connected. But yeah, having that physical space to go to every day to reconnect you is a really cool thing. And then having sort of that social aspect of being in the marketing office with a bunch of great people, I do miss that. But at the same time, I don't have any regrets at all. I don't ever wish I wasn't with Four Hands and I was back there, just because I'm at a completely new point in my life, and I'm really enjoying learning what a sales guy does and how, how I can leverage, my influence and my reputation or lack thereof and my experiences in Kansas City to help us. The first thing I have to do is generate awareness, and then try to get people to
Right.
buy the beer. But there are a lot of people who've never heard of Four Hands, and that's great because then I have a chance to introduce them to the brewery in the way that I'd like to introduce them to it, and I control their perception of the brewery in the way that I talk to them about it. So that's a really cool opportunity to have, almost daily.
Here's the
That's
really important question. When you do go to the home office in St. Louis, do you wear your Royals and Chiefs gear?
I don't
here
like
we
football
go.
at all. I know. So we'll talk about that.
He's a huge Royals fan. Let's just go with that.
And I wear my Kansas City stuff, my Royals hat all the time. When right before I started, we took a family trip over and we went to a game at Busch Stadium. We had some barbecue before the game and went to the game. And I wanted to wear this. I have a Charlie Hustle shirt that says 1985 World Champions on it.
Yes.
And my wife's like, no.
Oh, boo.
Like, you're meeting some of your new coworkers for the first time. You're not going to roll in and start a bunch of shit.
I'm a St. Louis instigator, so I would have.
Yeah. So he has a problem with St. Louis Cardinals fans. So that's just that.
Go ahead, man.
Him and Pickles, St. Louis fans and Pickles, he don't like.
Yeah. I've started plenty of shit since then, but she was probably right. Like, roll in and be cool. I'm proud of the Royals, regardless of the record. It's a great organization. I have a lot of good friends, who work in different roles within the team, and I'm really proud of the Royals, and I'm proud of my connection to the team.
So you've made that transition to Four Hands. How's that been for you? Obviously it's a different role than what you were doing at Boulevard. Have you learned some things? What's it been like for you?
Yeah, I mean, the first couple of weeks I just felt lost. I was happy to have a job, but I was like, I don't know what to do. I'd been on sales calls before, traveling with Boulevard, but I'd not really conducted the business of a sales rep. So I didn't know, like, what do I do when I go in? And it turns out that you don't really do. If you think about it that way, if you think about, like, I am now working, I am doing a trick, you're going to screw it up. So I just went in, and my boss, a guy named Heath Manson, I'm sure you guys have met. He told me, just go be you. Take some beers in and taste them, and before you leave, make sure to ask them to buy them. And it's a weird thing because before I wasn't really asking for the sale when I was representing accounts. I would go in and put the warm fuzzies and hang out with buyers or distributor reps or whatever and have a good time. But then, the sales rep would later come back and say, hey, so you want to buy that beer? So now I'm doing that. But then also, like, I'm not much of a numbers guy. So I've had to learn, to look a little more analytically at some data that we have and look at trends and see what's selling where and what's not. And so it's really, for me, it's like getting the right beer to the right place at the right time. We have an amazing beer called Cast Iron Brown that I love, but I'm not going to try to sell that to a bar that runs a big patio in the summer because that sounds like torture to sit and drink. Do you want an oatmeal brown right now? No, I don't want an oatmeal brown right now. That sounds terrible. So really sort of, picking out where and which beers I want us to be is kind of fun.
The real question is, why is it so hard to get street soda in Kansas City?
Dude, here's the thing. There are several beers that if we wanted to keep them in St. Louis and sell them all, we could. So it's hard to fight that, especially things like street soda that go so fast. So we would get limited drops over here, and that beer would go so fast. And I think, it's the same thing that I say every day that makes my job easy is beer is so damn good. It's really my job to not mess it up and not get in the way of the beer. But yeah, that beer is so good, man.
Because it shows up in Kansas City and it's like gone immediately.
It's gone.
I've never had it, and I feel like I have a bit of a hole in my heart because people love it.
It's so good. It is very good. Yeah. It turns out Corey King and the guys at Side Project and Sheridan, they know how to make beer.
Yeah, there's that, right?
Yeah.
But you can't, Nick. You can't hate St. Louis all the way, bro. Just saying, there's some good beers over there.
No,
it's just St. Louis fans.
I might try, but no.
No, yeah.
I am more of an instigator than a hater.
I don't know about that.
I like to cause a little havoc.
speaking of causing havoc,
Oh, Lord.
you know, Jeremy is one of my favorite Twitter followers. Follows. What is it with Twitter that? What do you like about Twitter? Because that's my favorite social media. What is it
Yeah.
about Twitter that you like?
People are crazy, man. Let's
start with that.
We live in an insane society, dude. It is wild. And I think Twitter is really good at coaxing the extremes out of people. Like
Yeah.
you rarely read a tweet and go, "Oh, that's a fairly moderate, measured take." Okay. You're always like, "What the hell?" Or you're like, "Yes, I love this take." There's not a lot of in between on Twitter. What I like about it though is that if no matter what you're into, we're into beer, but if you're into baseball or if you're into cross stitch or sneakers, someone in the world is out there talking about it right now, and they want to talk with you about it and share their passion on that. So like that's what I think is so great about Twitter. But then something that I think is really cool is the access that you can get to people that you really admire or celebrities or baseball players or musicians or whoever. They're there and they'll reply to you because they think that's cool too. It's a great way for them to interact with fans. So like I get really dorked out when Jason Isbell likes one of my tweets because he's a genius. You read his tweets and like, of course you're a writer. Your tweets are brilliant. But it's like for that one, like, they say the sun shines on every dog's butt one day of the year,
Right.
That's like Jason Isbell liking a tweet or Margot Price or someone or a Royals player following me, like that's sunshine on my butt for sure. And that's cool that you can have this interaction with them that's not super guarded. Everyone's sort of who they are on Twitter for the most part. And I've decided to just be unapologetically me on Twitter because I think that's what I'm best at is being me. When you try to be somebody else, you usually fail. But yeah, I love the passion that people bring to Twitter, and I hate the passion that people bring to Twitter.
No, you're definitely you on Twitter, Jeremy.
Yeah.
I love it.
I can see that love hate though, because it is great that everybody just kind of brings it, and then just as a writer, I get a little annoyed sometimes because it's everybody trying for the drop the mic moment.
Sure.
And look, 7% of us are that smart to ever get the real drop the mic line, right?
Right. No, it's funny, man. When people think they're going to dunk on me, I'm like, oh man, if you're like, no. If you're going to shoot the devil in the back, you better not miss. Yeah, you got to bring your game, dude. Otherwise, it's not going to be good for you.
Yeah, one of my highlights of Twitter was when I follow Ice-T, and I posted something and he liked it. I was like, oh shit, Ice-T liked my tweet.
He knows you're alive, right? It's like it's like when you watch like the teenage angst movie and the really dorky girl is like, the quarterback knows my name. You're like, oh my god, Margot Price knows I'm alive.
That's awesome. There was a lot of that, like back in 14 and 15 when the Royals, were on their postseason runs. I think, everybody was following all the Royals players and just, hoping for that one like or retweet.
Yeah, just any acknowledgement. It's
like everybody went after Duffy, right? Like because his before he left social media, his Twitter was legendary.
What I liked about his social media, he was the realest of the real.
Mm-hmm.
He was out there every day, but I think he let it get to him too much.
Right.
Like there are times where somebody will say like, I don't know how you handle people saying the things they say to you, and I go, I don't care. I don't care if we have nothing in common and we don't follow each other and you think that I'm wrong about something. Great. I don't care. Like I want to have a conversation, but when it's evident that nothing's going to happen, the conversation is not going to go anywhere. You just have to bail and get out. You can't waste your time on something or someone who doesn't want to change, who doesn't want to have that conversation. And I'm not going to force people into that with me. And I mute a lot of people, man. I mute and block like it's my job.
I liken Twitter to back in the day. We used to call them email bullies, where you would send a terse email, and if you were in person, you would never say that shit. That's Twitter,
right?
I'm like, really, you've never thrown a punch, you can't take a punch.
Yeah.
But you can hide behind your meme or emoji or whatever. So that's Twitter for me. But I still enjoy it, because you get to follow who you want to follow. Yeah, there's some dicks on there. But there's dicks in real life, so there's that.
Yep. You have to think about it and really curate it to to enhance your experience that you want to have. If you follow someone that makes you angry every day, quit following them. Stop it.
Hello.
Right.
Hello.
You can make them go away.
Yeah, like when people are like, oh, it hurts when I do this. Well, stop doing that. Stop hurting yourself.
Stop hitting yourself. Stop hitting yourself. Stop hitting yourself.
I just cracked open Southern Tier's Orange Creamsicle.
Is that the Creamsicle? Yes.
Yeah.
That's been one of my favorites lately. I've had that several times lately.
I don't think I've had it, but I'm going to try it.
I like it.
Wow, that's it reminds me of something that either Service would do. Yeah, it reminds me of something that Service would do.
Hey, I don't know. I don't know if you know this or not. I'm a Service fanboy.
Yeah, he's a love of Courtney. Every time I give him a Service beer, he pretty much wets his pants. So
they're great beers.
They are good. You might want to see a doctor, but they are good beers. Yeah.
Look, I'm a mid 40s white guy. We don't go to the doctor.
No, you should, man.
Hey, Jeremy. I'm sorry. What were you going to say, Nick?
No.
Did I cut you off?
Nothing important.
So one of the things we always talk about on the show is diversity in craft beer.
Mm-hmm.
You've been in the game for a long time. You see Kansas City. You've been to a lot of tap rooms. I think we're past the point of we know it's not diverse. I think we've kind of figured that out. I think now is to the point where we talk about whose responsibility is it to, because my estimation is that most breweries, the smaller ones, they're all small. They're about the business of making beer and running a business. It's hard to go out and be, they're not Boulevard. They don't do commercials. They don't do promotion, that sort of thing. What do you think would make craft beer more diverse in our city?
White people have to recognize that the problem with race relations right now is our problem. It's the problem that we created and that we've fostered that culture. And for too long, good people have remained silent about it because they didn't want to make people uncomfortable or they were worried about losing their own jobs. And we can't. It's wrong to expect the people who are oppressed by systemic racism to fix it as well. It's just wrong. And it's also, and I appreciate what you do online, Nigel, but it's not your job to educate white people as to the microaggressions that take place every day. So I think the first thing white people have to say is, this is our fault. We own and recognize this. And there's nothing that we can do that will make things of the past right. I've read a lot of stuff lately and just absolutely horrific stuff happened because of white people. And we can't take those things back, but recognizing that this is not the way this is not the way. We have to stop right now and dedicate ourselves to moving forward, dedicated to that idea that craft beer and everything really, but in this conversation, craft beer needs to be, people use the word welcoming a lot, and that's great, but I don't think it means shit either. You can say, I welcome everyone, and then they show up and do you
Right.
really welcome them? Let's see how this goes. It needs to be inviting. It needs to be, self-searching and self-evaluating. I explain the difference of welcoming and inviting. This has been said many, many times. Pardon me. If I were throwing a party, say I threw a party last night and Nick says, hey, did Nigel come to your party? No. Well, why not? Didn't you invite him? No, but he was welcome.
That's fair.
Yeah, I didn't perform the action of inviting you to that party.
Right.
And then craft breweries will say, well, and this is something I've heard said before. People say, people of color or minorities, certain groups, they don't buy craft beer because they can't afford it, and that is
Not
racist
true.
bullshit.
Yeah, that's not true.
The reason that more minorities aren't buying craft beer is that we're not marketing it to them. We're not meeting them in their place. We're expecting minorities to come to our place, and that's not
Right.
inviting either. That's not how that works. So you have to go to those communities and actively, seek them out to bring them into the fold and make sure they feel welcome. Because we can say we're welcome all we want, but if you walk into a brewery on a Thursday night and no one there looks like you, you're not going to feel welcome. That's not comfortable. And it could be the tap room could be full of 50 of the coolest white people on the planet, but there's still that thing that's going to happen. And until breweries or businesses and white people accept that this is our problem to fix, nothing's going to happen.
Do you think
Yeah,
that's?
it's.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Nick. No,
Do
go
you
ahead,
think-
brother.
hey, Nigel, we let the white guy go first.
Go ahead, bro.
Do you think that's a similar response on the business side of things? We've talked a lot with previous guests about there aren't black brewers. We just in Kansas City have our first person of color as an assistant brewer, right?
That is right.
So I mean, do you think there also needs to be a lot more action as far as go out and welcome and invite those in?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you look at breweries, they're very white. I don't know if you guys follow Garrett Oliver from Brooklyn Brewing.
Oh yeah,
I just talked about him a little bit.
In launching his Michael Jackson Foundation, he said the entire time he's run Brooklyn Brewery, he's never once gotten an application from a black person to be a brewer.
It's crazy.
That blew my mind, because I would think if you're in New York and you're black and you're into beer, like, shit, I want to work with Garrett Oliver. He's the man. You would think that would be, that would be something that you'd want to do. But then you realize that we're not actively seeking out, black people and minorities to work in breweries. We're just taking whatever gets applied. We're not recruiting, so we're getting, stacks and stacks of applications from white people and accepting, well, we did our job. We cast our net. No, you didn't. No, you didn't look very well. You put up an application online or posted a job opening, but you didn't actively seek people of color to apply for those positions. So I don't have the answers to that. It's a challenge. I know. Because I got to be careful here, because you want to hire the most qualified person for each job that you have, always. But I think what people fail to realize is that you can train people to do whatever job you want them to do or whatever job they want to do. And if people have the desire to work hard and the desire to be part of a team and they are intelligent, things that you can't teach, you can mold them into the perfect employee, regardless of their, ethnic or gender or socioeconomic background. You can find people from diverse communities to be a part of whatever it is you're doing if you get up and actively look for that. And that's the problem is, and especially right now, it's tough. Everyone's just thinking about, what am I going to do to stay open for the next 4 months? Or what am I going to do? People aren't thinking, like, in 5 years, this is what I would like my workforce to look like. They don't have that luxury right now. But I think if you don't look at expanding not only the marketing of what you're doing to appeal to minorities and people of color, you're not going to survive. Craft beer, like, there's only so many white people in this world. My son's in the background now. Yeah, he's been wanting to get on your show.
What up, small roommate?
There we go. Look, there's the cast.
Yeah. But if you're not doing those things, you're not going to continue to grow. Like, there's a big piece of the pie that's still out there because we haven't done a good job of positioning craft beer to people who don't look like me.
Yeah.
Is that anything that you, and I put you on the spot a little bit here, is that anything that you think about as you are a rep? You are a forward-facing representative for a brewery.
Yeah, I mean, I do. I absolutely think about that. Back when tastings were a thing, I wanted to do, and once, liquor store tasting become a thing again, I want to do a liquor store tasting in an area that people would go, why would you go there? Well, that's where, and again, that's meeting people in their place where they are.
Yeah.
I enjoy doing tastings in Waldo. It's great, but I need to go to different parts of the city, and I need to go to different stores where, the majority of the clientele identifies as a minority. And I think as humans, we say no for other people a lot. And this is not related to race or gender at all, but you think about, like, being in middle school and there's that really cute girl that you want to be your girlfriend or whatever, and you're like, oh, she'll never say yes. Well, no, not with that attitude, she won't. You're self-defeating, and you're like, oh, they don't want to drink this beer, and you said no for them. And you have to give people a chance to try the beer. And I think if you're making good beer, everyone tastes things differently, but, like, there's nothing predisposed about the genetic makeup of someone that makes them like craft beer or not like craft beer. It's just that it hasn't been marketed to them. they haven't been given the opportunity to try it. It hasn't been appropriately introduced to them. So yeah, I mean that's something I'd like to do once things open back up and liquor store tastings are a thing again. Is I would like to go into liquor stores where people will tell me that it doesn't make sense to go, and I'd love to prove them wrong.
Hell yeah, I love that because my whole thing is like where Boulevard is and where Alma Mader is. Those are minority neighborhoods,
Yeah,
right? But you don't see any minorities in those places. And for me as a minority, I'm like, why is that? I mean,
right.
and I get it. I have a bunch of friends who own these breweries and they're busy doing what they do. But I guess maybe the I have an issue with Boulevard on one level because they have the resources to be able to do the outreach, and I've never seen that happen. I mean, nobody else is doing commercials. Boulevard does commercials, right?
Right.
For me, and I love Boulevard, and I love that beer hall, and I walk up in there, and I have no problem. I'm one of those weird people, and I don't give a fuck who's in there.
Sure.
I mean, it's generally it's me and a couple other brothers that might work there, right?
Right.
And that's it. And to me, they have the resources and the cachet to go into these neighborhoods and be like, let's broaden our field of view, because as I told all my brewery friends, is that we're missing money. Let's just keep it real. You're missing money.
Yeah.
We're very segmented. It's very narrow. Kansas City is 28% black.
Yeah.
I don't know what the percentage of Latino is, but I tell this story all the time. Where Alma Mader is, it's right there on Southwest Boulevard. And I talked to Nick, and he was like, "I'd never have anybody Hispanic come in here. Maybe once in a while, and that shouldn't be a thing in that neighborhood, right?"
Right.
So again, we talk about this every week. Fuck COVID, because I'm with you. Where I had plans to go and because I have a lot of commitments from breweries to be like, hey, you want to go pour some beer? We'll give you the beer. Maybe go to 18th and Vine, wherever. Do these places where again you get people who don't even know Alma Mader is a thing,
right?
And they're like, oh, this is our neighborhood. What the hell? So I'm with you on that. So when the shit blows over, I'm on your team, bro. Because that's right up my alley. Because I think there's a lot of opportunity in Kansas City that we're missing.
Oh,
that,
for sure.
The reason I do what I do is because there's opportunity not only for the breweries but for people to experience shit that's being made in their backyard. I mean, who doesn't like to support local?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's a huge thing right there. This is handmade right in your backyard. Let's share it with you.
Yeah. Being able to walk to the bar is the coolest thing ever too, because then you don't have to drive home.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, the neighborhood breweries have a real opportunity to do that for sure.
I think Jeremy, that's the greatest thing about to me. The rise in the microbreweries is the neighborhood bars. Just those tap rooms. That's what makes it work.
Yeah. So Jeremy, when you say walk to the bar, I can leave my house. I can go downstairs. 42 steps. I'm at Grains and Taps. Yeah. I literally. Yeah, and I can go 2 blocks. I'm at the Fringe. Yeah, it's a horrible life, I tell you.
You know that there's an old joke about a guy saying it takes me about 2 minutes to walk to the brewery, and it takes me about 10 minutes to walk home, and the difference is staggering.
I love that he mixed in dad joke and beer joke all into one.
That's awesome. So Jeremy, you're a beer guy. You've been in the beer game for a long time. Do you have like a style that you like gravitate to? What's your thing?
I don't know if I have a style. I have a set of characteristics that I enjoy. I enjoy beers that are dry. Typically enjoy beers that are lower ABV. A little bit of acidity is nice. Some funk is cool. A little bit of hop character. So like when BKS, and I can't remember the names of the beers, but they'll do like this really lightly dry hop farmhouse ale that has a touch of acidity. Like that's what I want to drink all day. So like maybe saisons is what I really like, but I drink a lot of different beer, man, and I don't find myself drinking the same style a ton.
Right.
Here lately, I've been drinking a lot of hazy IPAs just because I don't enjoy bitterness as much as I used to. When I first started drinking craft beer, I wanted things that were 10.5 ABV and 130 IBUs, and I just wanted to melt my face. And then I realized there's a time and place for that, and that time and place is not every day, all day.
Right.
But yeah, like just really well-made IPAs I dig. I like Pilsners quite a bit, especially the ones that skew a little more towards the hoppy side.
Yeah.
It's so funny to me that people, they think they're so daring when they say, "Oh, I like lagers." Yeah, so does everybody, dude. Like the entire, 85% of beer sold is a light lager. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
But it's so funny. Like that's a brave statement you can make in beer. Oh, yeah, I like Pilsners. But yeah, so like that's kind of my type of those characteristics. But yeah, I don't really. If you look at my fridge, I have all sorts of styles in there. I like free beer a lot.
I like free beer a lot.
I love free beer. It's so good.
I will say that a good Pilsner or a good lager, because obviously the macros do that.
Sure.
But a good craft one. I mean, even the one that Nick has at Pilar. I mean, it's super solid. Shout out to Nick Mader because that's you can't hide anything in that beer.
No, there's nowhere to hide at all.
Yeah, if it's fucked up, it's fucked up.
Microphone? Is that what I'm supposed to do?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I had it. It's like when you're getting ready to sneeze, and you're like,
It's like the small roommate did one of those on you. It's like,
I grabbed the mic and then I couldn't do it, man. It was gone. Lost it.
I mean,
opportunity lost.
Did you crack open a new beer, or are you still drinking the same one?
No, I grabbed a can of our pineapple seltzer.
Okay, I mean that's fair. Junior, he's drinking a 4 Hands pineapple seltzer. Shout out to Junior because
Junior. I just feel like I have to have 2 or 3 of those an episode.
Well, since he was like, I need to know what the beers are, just for you, Junior. One of these days we're gonna get him on here. He said he doesn't want to do it, but he's a really interesting guy, and he's the guy that probably 8 months ago he said he's Latino and all his family drank was Budweiser, and he's been coming to Windshift where I work and has acquired a taste for IPAs and sours and stouts. He's like, I never knew this was a thing. That was terrible. That was a terrible perp.
Look, that was exponentially better than what you had earlier in the episode.
You know what? I'm pretty sure the small roommate could beat that.
He burps.
Look, the small ones are always going to win that contest. I have
Jeremy, the small roommate is destined to be famous. He should have his own podcast, The Small Roommate.
Well, he has a YouTube channel, and he'll tell you about it.
Does he really?
Yeah. We have a few videos up where we eat. We do spicy foods. We taste the that hot. It's a weapon. That hot sauce is not pleasant. We did a video trying the different like the Harry Potter awful jelly beans.
Nice.
They suck so bad. Oh man, it's brutal.
What's the name of the YouTube channel?
We don't have a fancy name right now. If you just search Jeremy Danner, you'll find it.
Okay.
But yeah, we've done some videos up there, and he'll get in the mood to do a video, and then he'll decide, oh, I don't want to do it. He clams up. So when inspiration strikes, you got to grab the camera and go.
I know. Yes.
I mean, that's a creative for you. He's a creative. He's like, no, not right now. I'm not feeling it. I'm good.
Right. Give me some space, Dad.
He wants to own his rights. Okay.
my boy, he writes, but he says the stories are for him, not for others.
So Jeremy, around Kansas City, there's a lot of breweries. You talked about BKS. You don't have to give me a favorite, but are there some breweries you enjoy?
Yeah, I mean, I think right now Alma Mader is probably my favorite. They're such good people, and the beers are so great, and I enjoy.
Oh, they're awesome! They're so awesome people.
I like City Barrel quite a bit. I like to, I like their fruited sours; those are fun. when KCBC is normal and I can take my my son there, I like to go hang out in the backyard and drink just the biggest glass of beer they'll pour me. If they ask me if you want a Moss, of
Das
course I
Boots.
do. Yeah,
Right.
I want the biggest beer that you'll hand me. So those are the ones that I go to most often. It's tough. I want to go to breweries more, but when I'm out selling beer all day and drinking beer all day, I just want to go home at night, man, and I want to hang out. And
Right.
obviously, that's what we're all doing right now is going home and hanging out. But yeah, those are probably those are my top favorites. But there's so much good beer in Kansas City right now, and there wasn't before.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
It's overwhelming.
So how I know you have a cutout at the Royals. How's this been for you not being able to go to games? And I know that was your thing, man.
It sucks, dude. That is my thing. That's my favorite thing in the world to do is go to the ball game with my family or some friends and have a beer out there. It's funny, so there's 30 home games. So my cutout will be at 30 games, which is 4 less than I went to last year. So
wow.
Even though my cutout will be at every game, I did 34 last year, and I just love being out there. It's the best, man.
Yeah. What does a small roommate have to say about that?
He loves going out there too, man. I keep track of how many games he's been to. I keep a record of who we played, who I went with, and if we won or lost. So he's at I think he's been 126 Royals games at this point.
Wow.
I love that because this is where I failed. I'm a huge baseball fan. Love the Royals. My son, who's now 13, hates baseball.
No.
Hates baseball.
You're fired as a father.
I know. I'm a
what is the small roommate's actual name?
His name is Cooper.
What up, Cooper?
So
Will Cooper be in Cooperstown?
Maybe someday, man. Who knows? He plays soccer though. That's the sport he likes to play, but he does like to watch.
Oh, right on. Hey,
yeah,
that's the best sport ever, dude.
Now you're playing to the British guy.
Yeah. We wanted to give him a beer name though, so we like the idea of job names as well. Like Sawyer or Miller or all that sort of stuff.
Right.
So we landed on Cooper and thought that was a cool name and call him Coop a lot.
Nice.
I mean, it's close enough to British. It's fine. So, brother, what happened to your podcast? I loved it. What happened?
It sort of fell off the radar because I was doing all my recording at 610 in the studio.
Gotcha.
And I think people are starting to go back into the studio now for shows, and I need to get back on that. It's fun.
Oh my God, it was great. It was great.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, you said it was what? It was selfish?
No. Selfishly, it's fun because I get to sit down and talk to these people that I have a ton of respect for that do cool things in the city, and I get them all to myself for 45 minutes and we hang out and have a beer. That's enjoyable on its own, and then to walk away having this conversation to share is this added bonus,
So it's what's it called? I love this town, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So
awesome.
If
awesome.
Kids, if you can go back and listen to them, you get some great guests. One of my favorite things is the Kansas City table, right? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, the Kansas City table. I want it to be. I was inspired by when people ask folks for their death row meal, like what do you want before you get executed? But that's really dark.
Yeah,
that is that's a mood that I don't want to go to. So I changed it to be a Kansas City table. And basically, the table's as big as you need it to be to hold all your food and drinks. But if you're putting together this ultimate Kansas City meal, what's on the table?
Wow, that's a tough answer.
It is.
Yeah,
I'm going to spend some time on that.
Well, so as we wrap this up, what would your table be, Jeremy?
Oh shit! Okay.
See how I did to it? I did there.
Yeah. And it's a tough question because there's a lot of stuff out there, man. When I build this table, or some guests have talked about they want to start with dessert. So I'm gonna put some pie from Rye on there.
Okay.
The pies that Megan has created are insane. Her lemon cream pie is nuts. I called her a citrus witch once. It's amazing how much lemon flavor comes out in that pie. So I'm gonna have that on there. I'm gonna have some Jack Stack burnt ends probably. I'm gonna have some Oklahoma Joe's fries. I'm gonna have some catfish from Charlie D's. Yeah, and it's able to be as big as I want it to. I might as well have their spaghetti too.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want.
You got to have spaghetti with catfish. That's important. Drinks wise, I'm gonna have, I'll probably have a saison bread on there. Just one of the best beers in the world. It's still cool to think about the fact that I got to make that beer.
Yeah,
this is a hard question.
Dude, hold on now. It's hard. Yeah, you ask people that every time, and now you're stumped.
I know. Well,
you should have thought about this, man.
I didn't, man. It's fun to watch people, and I'm sure I make the same face they make. Like, what's the fancy table? And they go, "Oh, God, I don't know." Man.
Well, and I would be ticking off all of the barbecue joints, but I'd be ticking off my menu item at each one.
Sure. And then I think when people ask, I get a lot of questions on Twitter, like, where should I go for barbecue? And I'm like, well, what do you want?
Exactly. Right. That's always my response.
Do you want ribs? Do you want pulled pork? Do you want burnt ends? What is it that you want to have? And then I can give you some direction there. Ooh, I gotta have some hot Polish sausage from Fritz's down at 103rd Street. You guys go there?
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good, dude. I used to go there all the time. I don't know if they do it anymore, but Wednesdays you get 2 sausages and buns for $3. That's
shit!
Insane. Yeah,
that's ridiculous.
McDonald's, I'm not. You can spend $25 at McDonald's now, but you can spend $3 to get 2 awesome sausages.
Right.
It's
and
crazy.
McDonald's.
Now the small roommate doesn't want Happy Meals anymore. Yeah, we have insane McDonald's meals sometimes.
There's nothing wrong with coaching up your kid to eat good. You know what I'm saying?
No, that's important.
Nothing wrong with that.
That's
I mean, I got a buddy of mine. His kids are 5 and 8, and they eat sushi.
Yeah,
I'm like, what?
Sushi. Yeah, he loves sushi. Yeah.
Does he really?
Oh yeah. We got some sushi from June's last week, and Randall had gotten herself some big pieces of tuna, and he ate them all. Like, you smart man, you know. He's like, I want that, and I want that roll, and yeah, he loves spicy tuna rolls, and he loves tuna. He'll eat a little bit of salmon as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I'll put some June sushi on there. I'm okay. I'm trying to learn every day, man. It's a process.
Well, yeah, it's a process, but hell, he's eating good because he's how old?
He's 7. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're good.
He's
Dad is here.
They measured him today at the doctor, and he's 4 foot 6 inches tall. So he is not going to be a small person. So I know this trend of eating a lot is only going to continue, man.
Oh yeah, you got like 10 more years of that shit.
Oh, I know, dude. I know. He went to McDonald's the other day, and he just broke his arm. Like, you can have whatever you want, dude. And I think I got like a burger meal, and he got like a Big Mac meal and some nuggets, and wanted everything large. And they're like, it's $27.80. Pull forward. I'm like, what do I get?
You're like, I need a part-time job.
How am I spending $30 for 2 of us at McDonald's?
Right. I'm like, damn it, dude.
That is crazy.
But also, I try. I don't want to spoil them, but I try not to say no, because saying no sucks. It's so much more fun to say yes to things. So especially food. If you are hungry, you should always eat. And I don't ever want him to feel like nervous about eating or have any hang-ups with food. So if you're hungry, you should eat until you're full if you have the opportunity to.
Well, there's nothing. I have 3 kids, so there's nothing wrong with spoiling that kid as long as you let them know. Rule number 1, don't die. Rule number 2, don't be a dick.
Keep it simple.
Yeah. That's right. I mean, if you can remember those two things, so it's awesome. Yeah. So, well, dude, we appreciate you coming on, man.
No, we talked about it for a while now. Yeah, so I'm excited it finally happened, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, when Nick and I first decided we're going to do a podcast over coffees with bourbon in them. Yeah. We had a list of people, and you've always been on there. So I'm glad we got to do this. I'm a fan of yours. Every time I see you, it's much love. I think you're a great ambassador to Kansas City beer. I love your new role. You've kind of hit some people to. It's amazing that some people don't know about 4 Hands.
Right.
But that's your next pilgrimage, is to get these people to understand it.
Yeah. You're gonna make me be nice to St. Louis people.
Yeah, bro. I don't know. I've been going to St. Louis for 12 years for work before, and I have a lot of friends and family, or not family, a lot of friends there that for me, it's a beautiful place to go. I want to tell a quick story that won't take very long.
Sure.
You're talking about
No, you're good.
like spreading awareness. Years ago, I was doing a tasting at Royal Liquor, that's now at Gomer's at 103rd Street, and I was with Boulevard then.
Great
and a woman
store.
walked over and she goes, "Boulevard, where are you guys from?" And I said, "Let me ask you a question before I answer that. Where are you from?" She said, I'm from Kansas City. I've lived here my entire life." And she was in, I've
Bloody
never heard
hell.
of Boulevard. And I lean in and I go, "Are you fucking with me?" And she goes, "No, I've never heard of Boulevard before." And it blew my mind. But in that moment, I had such a ridiculous opportunity that I don't think a lot of Boulevardians in Kansas City have ever had the chance to do, is to introduce a Kansas City into Boulevard.
Right.
That's crazy. They'd be like, "You ever heard of Royals baseball? Oh, what's that about?" And you're like, "Oh my God, well, let me tell you."
There's baseball here? What the
Yeah,
fuck?
you have this opportunity. So like in my role with Four Hands, like I said earlier, the primary function is creating awareness. And that's so much fun because the beers themselves are so good. Our brewers are so talented that when I get 5 minutes with you to sit down and taste one of our beers, and you take a drink and you go, "That's really good." In my brain, I go, "I know. That's why I brought it to you." Like I wouldn't. Yeah, like that's why I work here. If I was very fortunate when everything went down with Boulevard. I put out a statement on social, let folks know that I was no longer with Boulevard. I got a text that night from Kevin Limp at Four Hands saying, "Hey, do you want to work for Four Hands?" And I'm like, "I have no idea, dude. Maybe. I don't know. I have no idea." But it went very fast from there. So they took a chance on me because I'm me. I'm polarizing. I know that. I know that not a lot of people go, "Danner's okay. They love him or they hate him." But just having that opportunity almost every day to introduce people to a new brewery, a brewery they've never had before, and I'm confident that the beers are good, and I'm confident they're going to like them. It's such a joy to get to share that, and I think that's what you do with craft beer too, man. Is you turn people on to stuff that you dig, knowing that because they like you and they trust you, they're likely going to enjoy it as well, and that feels cool. Getting paid is awesome as well. Like I
Right.
appreciate that money's deposited in my account every couple of weeks for doing this, but the joy in introducing people to something not only that you're passionate about, but something that you dig and something that sort of sets them on a journey. It's like when you teach, and this is not quite the same, but teaching someone to fish, you're like, "Shit, man, fishing's awesome. I had no idea." When you introduce people to the world of craft beer, and especially a brewery that you're passionate about, that's a lucky position to be in, but it's fun too. It's rewarding.
I would say you're not polarizing. Some people can't handle real.
Yeah.
You're just real.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what that is. Some people can't handle that. You said it. You are who you are, and you don't give a fuck what anybody thinks. You're going to be Jeremy Danner.
I'm a terrible liar. Yeah, I just don't lie. Yeah, I just can't.
That's awesome.
I have no capacity for it. I just can't do it.
Hey, a sidebar here. That Royal Liquor that's now at Gomer's, that beer selection in there was ridiculous. When it was insane. I was like, who was getting these beers? Nick, you would go to that. It's 103rd and State Line. You would go in there, and you could just spend an hour in there. I'd be like, why is this even in here? Why is this beer in here? It'd be all dusty and shit. It was the craziest thing, man. I took so many people in there, and they would all spend $150, $200. I'm like, it was nobody knew what they had. So is it the same? I don't think it's the same that Gomer's is there now, is it?
They trimmed down some of the selection, and with Shelton Brothers, sort of shutting down business in Missouri, that pulled a lot of that stuff out. I think a lot of the stuff you find, we're like, why is this here? The really esoteric, out there stuff was distributed by Shelton, so it's not there right now. But they've got more cooler doors than they had before. I mean, it's still a great store. I mean, Gomer's folks, they know what they're doing.
Yeah, it looks a lot cleaner. I'm just gonna say.
Yeah. They immediately showed some love to the building and painted it up. But that was kind of part of it, though, is you go in and you're like, this place looks shitty, and then you get in there and you're like, oh my God, there's amazing beer here.
Yeah. I mean, I got a buddy of mine that I trade with in Oklahoma, and he was like, "Can you find this beer?" I'm like, "Probably at Gomer at Royal." So that's where I would go and find that shit. So, but brother, I appreciate you coming on, man. Tell people where they can follow you.
Yeah, so Twitter is probably my favorite place to hang out with people, and Jeremy _Danner on there. follow Four Hands Brewing Company as well. It's the number 4 Hands Brewing Co. on Twitter and Instagram. Sometimes I tell people just Google me and you'll find some stuff. The Google image results for me, it's incredible. But yeah, my Twitter feed pops up when you Google Jeremy Danner. Yeah, those would be the spots I'd check out. And then, fourhandsbrewery.com is our website for the brewery. Has all of our beers on there and, kind of what we're doing at the current time.
Where can they find Four Hands, or like around Kansas City? There's probably, a bunch of places, or what's the story?
Yeah, I mean, I hesitate to name specific liquor stores for fear of forgetting one.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, most of the bigger liquor stores in town are going to have us, and a lot of the smaller ones too. Yeah, if you're listening to this and you want to find out where you can find a specific Four Hands beer, DM me on Twitter. My DMs are open, and I can pull reports, and I'll show you exactly where the beer you're looking for has been recently ordered. But yeah, I always get nervous about naming specific accounts.
Right, that's fair.
I'll realize I forgot one, and they'll be
right.
Oh, I should have said that. So yeah,
I'll be DMing you about street soda next time it comes out.
Every day,
dude.
You rep that beer so much. I'm like, I gotta have that beer, but it doesn't last, man. I'm like, and I can't get Nick to go to St. Louis with me, so there's that.
No, that's not true. I mean, I'm not going to do that. Look, not unless you've got a vaccine with that beer.
Right.
Bro, we're gonna go to the liquor store, pick it up, and drive back. Drive-through, baby.
There we go. I miss drive-through liquor stores.
Hey, Nick, where can they find Beers with Nigel?
You can find Beers with Nigel on your favorite podcast apps. That's Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. Hey, did you know, Nigel? You can even tell Alexa to play the Beers with Nigel podcast.
That's what I hear, but I don't have an Alexa. I have a Google.
Last time I said that, we got somebody's device that actually started to play it, so that was kind of fun.
Nice.
Well, I saw today that Amazon's doing podcasts now. So
yeah, ours will be available through Amazon and Audible soon.
Or you can go to Facebook.com, Beers with Nigel. Because this is the thing, Jeremy. We do video, but we also do audio. And, the video, sometimes it's better to see facial expressions. Sometimes it's not. But if you want to see facial expressions.
It's better with less face of me.
Me too. Yeah, I'm a very unfortunate looking man.
Oh, you guys are handsome bitches, okay? It's fine.
I'm not sure which of those I'm more proud of. Probably bitch.
Handsome or bitch? Which one? Hey,
Jeremy, it was awesome to meet you, man.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Yeah. We'll see you guys. Absolutely. We'll see you guys soon. Thanks for listening and watching. What's the name of the show, Nick?
It's Beers with Nigel, a show.
About what?
About beer and other things.
And what?
Other stuff? I don't know. We got our own tagline wrong. That's the problem with Nigel. I'm blaming Nigel on this one.
I mean, it happens.
It happens. You have been listening to Beers with Nigel, a show about beer and other stuff, hosted by Nigel Woodbury and that other guy, Nick Parker. Beers with Nigel is a proud member of the Fredcast Network, and it's available on your favorite podcast apps. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Beers with Nigel.